The way I view my clients is they're not just legal clients who come into the office and we have a brief relationship where I'm working with you for a limited period of time. What I'm looking at for clients is I want to get you from a place where obviously you're not satisfied. You either want a divorce, your spouse wants a divorce, there's custodial issues, other issues in your life, including loss of job or other problems you have. And my task is to guide you through the rough spots and get you to a better place. This is something I take very seriously. I maintain very strong relationships with clients, even after we've completed any litigation that we need to go through on their behalf. This, to me, is an important part of being a matrimonial attorney. It's not just, I'm your attorney, this is my job. It's been a lot more than that. And my clients can attest to that as well. There are various costs involved with any individual going through a divorce. The first one really is the emotional cost. When people think of going through a divorce, they're thinking of finances right off the bat. But the emotional costs of going through a divorce, it really is the breakup of your family unit to a certain extent. It's the end of a relationship that you set upon years ago, and you thought it was going to be a lifetime commitment. Your spouse thought it was going to be a lifetime commitment. The end of that is a very difficult matter emotionally for virtually everybody. Knowing that your children are going to be living in a different type of environment, it won't be the same for them. There'll be something missing for them, and your job is going to be to make it as good for them as possible. And that's going to be my job as well, to help ensure that your children survive and actually end up on the other side of this process in as good a shape as possible. So that's the emotional costs. The financial costs are often understated and underestimated by people. You start with the court costs themselves, which are pretty narrow: filing fees, other motion fees. That's pretty small. You can measure that in the hundreds of dollars. But then you get into the costs of discovery, as we call it, which is learning about the finances, both yours and your spouse's. If there's a business involved, you will need to get forensic accountants involved to determine the value of the business that has to be shared. If there's pensions involved, often there's pension valuations. There's lifestyle evaluation sometimes, where you have the cost of determining what you actually lived on. People often don't realize how much money they spend on any given type of expense. What did you spend each year on vacations? What did you spend on food, on your shopping, on your clothing, on your jewelry, on your furniture, on your artwork? So all these types of matters have to be evaluated to come up with a lifestyle. Then there's also the cost of the custody evaluation. If there's no agreement as to custody, and often there is, but often there isn't. So a custody expert can be very expensive, could be $20,000 potentially, will need to be named. Then if there's very serious disagreements, if there's a more of a dysfunctional household in terms of parenting and ability to communicate during the divorce process, sometimes the court will need to appoint guardians, guardian ad litem, which is a court-appointed guardian for the children. These are additional costs as well. So the cost can really accumulate. And this doesn't even include your attorney's fees. Your attorney's fees really vary, and people are always asking me, what will it cost for me for your fees? And I'm going to respond to you. It depends how much you and your spouse can agree upon. The more you can agree upon, if we can sit down early, which I always try to do, and work out an agreement as to as many issues as possible, this saves a lot of money to each person. The more disagreement you have, the more attorney's fees you're going to have, the more expert fees you're going to have. So the costs are largely determinable by the clients themselves. People who want to show that they were right about everything, that their spouse was wrong about everything. These are people who end up paying a lot more money because the legal system is not built on showing who's right or who's wrong. It's really built on trying to get to the other end of a financially based litigation and being smart about it. You're not going to get everything you want. They're not going to get everything they want. If you do this, this will really hold the cost down. And even though it might sound self-serving, but to the extent that you've hired me to be your attorney, listen to my advice when I tell you you're going to spend $1,000 to get back $100. And you have to really think to yourself at the end of the day, is it really worth it? So my clients, you're in control of a lot of the costs that are involved, and I'll help guide you through the rest.